One of the things that you may have seen in many 3D productions, not necessarily dance, is that sometimes it's quite static, or they're working with single individuals. Here's Crystal's work where there are 5 performers, the movement is very fast, it's very complex, and this posed a whole set of interesting challenges.
Well, right. Because you think about if looking at dance and performance, there's the downstage people and the upstage, and the depth would have an important role in how we would be receiving those kind of images, which seems like it would shift completely once you start thinking.
And that's what became exciting. So the more research I did into it, that whole immersive experience I thought was really one worth exploring. And Crystal has 5 dancers in her work. It's the perfect type of choreography to try and get the viewer to feel that you are in their space with them as they're dancing. So that's our goal with it, to really change the experience of seeing dance and be more participatory, and to avoid kind of the idea of the tricks coming out at you like we've all seen in 3D action films and whatnot. And we're going to show you a bit of the behind the scenes, or the work in progress, and you'll see that the dance is dynamic, it's fast, but it's also very round, so we're going with the notion, because we haven't seen the effect it's going to give yet, of the bodies kind of shifting into the audience space and then back around. So keeping it a very organic thing. So they're not sort of in front of you the whole time, but they're really exploring the space between where you're sitting and somewhere very far away, like an infinite space. And because we're working with animation, we want to work with animation. We will be working with animation in September on what you're going to see. It poses a whole other set of both open door as well as certain constraints, and we had so many discussions with animators about how can 3D work with dance. And so when we move into the final project, because we're now in a demo 1-minute stage, which we filmed 2 weeks ago, we're going to be just discovering how 2D and 3D can work together. Can you say something about that? Because I feel like you've been working and honing your craft as filmmakers and understanding all of those things about working in 2 dimensions. And so did you feel like, I got to throw out everything I know? Because what does it just mean to do this now? Well, I mean, you saw with The Greater the Weight, the film we just showed, editing was a really integral part of the creation of that piece. It's cut really fast. She's zipping through the frame this way and that way. And in 3D, you just don't do that, because you're really trying to explore the space that's in front of you, that's around you. So editing is a completely different animal. You cut much less. It's really about looking around within the space. In film, as in photography, often we're working with thirds, and we like to film, frame things a bit to the side and have the depth over here. And in 3D, center is the best place to have your subjects. That gives you just a sense of what the material, the core material was. Then we had, in the week prior to the shoot, we invited a storyboard artist in. Storyboards are essentially breaking down each shot, each sequence into smaller portions. And so he created a 3D storyboard for us so that we would begin to understand where the plane was in terms of where the 3D line would be. In other words, what would go in front of it, what would go behind it. And that's a good example of some of the sequence that you just saw and what we were working with. And also it gave us the chance to imagine a little bit what the background would be. I mean, that hasn't been created yet. We were going to be going into a green studio to film. So at least we were able to let the artist know sort of what our color palette was and some of the textures. I mean, it's just roughed in, but it gave us a sense of what the background could be. And yes, this is a line Philip was mentioning that we placed as like a little floor plan of this shot, and the dotted line is what we call the screen plane. So everything in front of that would be in the audience space, in that real kind of 3D look, and then everything behind would be receding to the vanishing point. And what's really nice to know, since this is new and we've not done this before, is all of that can be adjusted in post-production. Like that screen line can be brought forward. We can bring the dance out more. If it's too out, we can push it back in. So it's really nice to know that we do still have time to play with all of that later. Think of a normal camera, but this is double. So there's a left eye and a right eye. And that is our director of photography, Michael Weiss.
So
Right.
if you think it's stereoscopic, like we looked at in the 1920s with the two
Yes.
images there, is how the camera is seeing now.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it requires two cameras, and they're placed together based on the distance between your two eyes. So one is emulating the left eye and the right eye, and then basically your brain puts it all together and creates the depth.
Yes.
That's calculated. And if you notice, there are these blue X's everywhere, and that's to allow the background to track with the camera movement. So if we do a movement with the camera, and then we're going to have an animated background, it needs to shift as well. So those are the key reference points that the animator will use when he's doing the programming to move the backgrounds. Yeah.
So the step-by-step process will allow us to do editing in the fall, working with animators in the fall. We'll work with the original composer, Owen Belton, on the score and create this 1-minute demo. The original dance was 70 minutes. The projected film is 25 minutes.